I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've sat across from hundreds of women who thought they were broken because love hadn't worked out the way they'd imagined. But the day Kate walked into my office and said, "I think I'm the problem, doctor." More because every single man I meet just vanishes after a few dates, and I'm starting to think I'll never have the family I've always wanted. I knew this wasn't just about dating apps or bad luck. This was about something much deeper, something that had been quietly shaping her choices for years without her even realizing it. My name is Dr. Evelyn Moore. I've been a therapist for over 20 years now, and I specialize in relational patterns, the invisible threads that connect our past to our present, our fears to our choices. I work out of a small practice in Portland. Nothing fancy, just a quiet room with 2 armchairs, a window that looks out onto a maple tree, and enough safety for people to finally say the things they've been too scared to admit to themselves. Kate's case stayed with me long after our sessions ended, not because it was unusual. Actually, it was heartbreakingly common, but because of what she discovered about herself along the way, and how fiercely she had to fight against her own patterns to break free. She came in on a Thursday afternoon in early October. I remember because the light was that particular golden autumn color, the kind that makes everything look softer than it really is. Kate was 38, though she looked younger, with dark blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, jeans, a cream sweater, sneakers. She carried a leather tote bag that she clutched against her stomach like a shield as she sat down. Her hands were shaking slightly. She wasn't crying, not yet, but her eyes had that glassy, exhausted look of someone who'd cried so much recently that there wasn't much left. She sat on the edge of the chair, back straight, as if she might need to leave quickly. "I don't even know where to start," she said, her voice tight. I nodded, waited. The room was silent except for the faint hum of traffic outside. "I feel ridiculous even being here. I mean, it's just dating, right? People do it all the time, but I can't anymore. I just can't keep doing this." She looked down at her hands. "I'm 38 years old, Dr. Moore. I want a family. I want kids. I want a partner. And I've tried everything. Therapy before, dating apps, setups from friends, going to events, saying yes to everything. And it's the same thing every single time. We go out once, maybe twice. It seems fine. And then nothing. They just disappear, ghost me, or they send some polite text about not feeling a connection. And I'm starting to think the problem is me." Kate worked in marketing for a mid-sized tech company. She'd been there for almost a decade. Well-respected, good at her job, financially stable. She owned a small condo in the Pearl District, had close friends, a good relationship with her parents who lived in Seattle, a sister she talked to every week. On paper, her life looked pretty solid, but inside, she told me, she felt like she was running out of time, like she was watching all her friends move forward into marriages and motherhood, while she stayed stuck in this endless loop of first dates and polite rejections. "I've been on 43 first dates in the last 2 years, she said, and the specificity of that number told me she'd been counting, tracking, trying to find some pattern that would explain it. 43. And out of those, maybe 12 turned into second dates, 3 made it to a third date, and none, not a single one, turned into anything real. And the worst part is, I don't even know what I'm doing wrong. I show up, I'm friendly, I ask questions, I laugh, I'm interested. I don't talk about marriage on the first date or anything crazy like that, but something about me just makes men not want to stick around." I asked her to tell me about the most recent one. She closed her eyes for a second, took a breath. His name was Michael. We met on an app, talked for a week before meeting up. Really good conversation. He seemed kind, thoughtful. We went to this little wine bar downtown, and it was nice, really nice. We talked for 2 hours. He walked me to my car, said he had a great time, kissed me on the cheek, said he'd text me, and then nothing. For 3 days, nothing. So I texted him, just something casual, asking how his week was going. He responded 6 hours later with, "Hey Kate, you're really lovely, but I just didn't feel that spark. I hope you find what you're looking for." And that was it. Blocked. She opened her eyes and looked at me, and there was this raw desperation there. "What spark, Dr. Moore? What does that even mean?" We laughed. We talked. He seemed engaged. What am I not giving them? What is everyone else doing that I'm not? In that moment, I could see the weight of all 43 of those dates pressing down on her, each rejection adding another layer of proof to the story she was telling herself, the story that said she was fundamentally unlovable, fundamentally lacking something essential that everyone else seemed to have. Over the next few weeks, we started to map out her dating history, not just the recent app dates, but going all the way back to high school, college, her 20s, and a pattern started to emerge, one that Kate hadn't fully seen before. Every relationship she'd ever been in, she had been the one doing most of the work, texting first, planning dates, initiating conversations about feelings, trying to fix problems, bending herself into shapes she thought the other person wanted. And in every single case, eventually, the man had pulled away, said he felt pressured, said things were moving too fast, said he needed space. "I just thought that's what you're supposed to do," she said during our 4th session, sounding confused and a little defensive. "If you like someone, you show them. You make an effort. You don't just sit back and wait for them to do everything." I asked her where she learned that. She went quiet for a long time, staring at the window. "My mom, I guess. She always told me and my sister that if you want something, you have to go after it. That men are clueless, and if you wait for them to take the lead, you'll be waiting forever." She was always the one who planned everything in my parents' relationship, the vacations, the social life, even the conversations about their future. My dad just kind of went along with it. I asked her how that had felt, growing up, watching that dynamic. She frowned. I guess I always thought my mom was strong, like she knew what she wanted and she made it happen. But she trailed off, then said quietly, "But she was also really exhausted all the time, and kind of resentful." She'd make these comments about my dad, like how he never took initiative, how she had to do everything, how if she didn't push, nothing would ever happen. And I remember thinking, even as a kid, that it seemed really lonely, like she was in the relationship by herself, even though he was right there. That was the first crack, the first moment where Kate started to see that the blueprint she'd been following, this idea that love required constant effort and pursuit and management, might actually be working against her. Because what she was calling effort, I was starting to see as anxiety. What she was calling showing interest, I was seeing as over-functioning. And what she thought was her being proactive, I was recognizing as her trying to control outcomes because she was terrified of being abandoned. "Tell me about the first few dates," I said. "Walk me through what you do, how you feel." She thought about it. "Well, we match, and usually I message first because most guys don't. And then I try to keep the conversation going, ask questions, share things about myself, suggest meeting up because otherwise it just fizzles out. Then we set a date, and I usually confirm the day before because I've had guys forget or flake. During the date, I make sure there aren't awkward silences. I ask about their job, their hobbies, their family. I laugh at their jokes. I try to find common ground. And then afterward, I wait maybe a day, and then I text to say I had a good time, because I don't want them to think I'm not interested. I asked her what would happen if she didn't do all of that. If she didn't message first, didn't carry the conversation, didn't confirm, didn't follow up. She looked at me like I'd suggested she jump off a bridge. Then nothing would happen. They'd just move on to someone else. There are a million women on those apps, Dr. Moore. If I'm not actively showing interest, why would they pick me? And there it was, the core belief, the thing driving all of it, the belief that she had to earn love, had to convince someone to choose her, because left to their own devices, no one would. We spent the next several sessions unpacking where that belief came from. It wasn't just her mother's relationship, though that was part of it. It was also an early relationship in college, her first serious boyfriend, a guy named Ryan who she'd fallen hard for. She'd pursued him initially, asked him out, planned their dates, told him she loved him first. And for a year, it seemed to work. But then he started pulling back, canceling plans, being distant. She tried harder, gave more, asked what was wrong, suggested solutions, and one night, he finally told her, "Kate, you're too much. You're always planning things, always wanting to talk about us, always needing reassurance. I feel like I can't breathe. I need someone more relaxed, more easygoing." And then he left. And 2 weeks later, he was dating someone else. Someone Kate described as one of those effortless girls who never seems to try and guys just fall all over themselves for her. That breakup, at 20 years old, had taught Kate a devastating lesson: that trying too hard makes you unlovable, but also that not trying hard enough means you get left behind. So she'd spent the next 18 years caught in this impossible bind, over-functioning in relationships because she was terrified of being passive like her father, but then being rejected for over-functioning because men experienced it as pressure and neediness. She couldn't win, because the game she was playing was rigged from the start. What would it feel like, I asked her during our 7th session, to go on a date and do absolutely nothing? To just show up, be present, and let him lead the conversation? Let him follow up? Let him pursue you? She laughed, but it was bitter. It would feel like torture, like I was just sitting there waiting to be rejected. At least when I'm doing something, I feel like I have some control. I leaned forward. But Kate, do you have control? You've been trying to control the outcome for 2 years, and it hasn't worked. Every single time you try to manage someone into liking you, they leave. So what are you actually controlling? She stared at me, and I watched her face shift, something crumbling. I don't know, she whispered. I thought I was controlling whether or not they'd stay, but they leave anyway, so I guess I'm not controlling anything. I'm just exhausting myself for nothing. She put her head in her hands, and for the first time since our first session, she started to cry, really cry, deep shaking sobs that seemed to come from some place she'd been keeping locked down for years. I'm so tired, Dr. Moore. I'm so tired of trying. I'm so tired of feeling like I'm not enough. I just want someone to want me without me having to convince them. That was the turning point. The moment where Kate stopped defending her patterns and started grieving them. Grieving all the years she'd spent believing that love was something you had to earn through effort and performance. Grieving the relationships that had never had a chance because she'd been so busy managing them that she'd never actually been present in them. We talked about what it meant to be chosen, really chosen, not because you'd done everything right or made it easy or convinced someone, but because of who you actually were, flaws and quirks and all. And then I gave her an assignment, an experiment. I told her to keep dating, but with one strict rule: she was not allowed to initiate anything. Not the first message, not the date suggestion, not the follow-up text. She was only allowed to respond, and even then, only when she genuinely wanted to, not out of fear or strategy. If a guy messaged her and she wasn't interested, she could say no or not respond. If he asked her out and she wanted to go, she could say yes, but she could not push, could not plan, could not try to make anything happen. This is terrifying, she said, but she agreed to try. For 2 weeks, she said, nothing happened. She got matches, but most guys didn't message, and the ones who did sent generic openers that she didn't feel drawn to, so she didn't respond. And instead of feeling rejected, she told me she felt relieved. I realized I'd been responding to guys I wasn't even that interested in, just because I thought I should give everyone a chance, or because I was scared of missing out on someone who might turn into something. But when I actually paused and asked myself if I wanted to respond, the answer was usually no. And then, 3 weeks into the experiment, she matched with someone named Ben. He messaged first, a thoughtful comment about something in her profile. She responded when she felt like it, not immediately, not strategically. He asked questions, shared things about himself, suggested they get coffee. She said yes. He picked the place, set the time, confirmed the day before without her having to prompt him. And on the date, Kate said, something was different. I didn't do anything, she told me, eyes wide like she couldn't quite believe it. I mean, I talked. I was myself, but I didn't try to fill every silence or steer the conversation or make sure he was having a good time. I just sat there and let it unfold. And it was so strange, Dr. Moore, because I kept waiting for that panicky feeling, like I needed to do something or it would fall apart, but it didn't come. And he just kept talking, asking me things, laughing, leaning in. And at the end, he said he'd love to see me again. And then he actually texted me the next day and asked me to dinner that weekend, and I didn't have to do anything to make that happen. They went on a second date, then a third, then a fourth, and Kate kept practicing, kept resisting the urge to overfunction, to plan, to manage. There were moments, she told me, where the anxiety spiked, where she wanted to text him first, or suggest the next date or ask where things were going. but she sat with the discomfort instead, talked about it in our sessions, let herself feel the fear without acting on it. And what she discovered was that Ben was consistent. He showed up. He followed through. He initiated. He seemed genuinely interested in her without her having to convince him. It's like I've been trying so hard to make men like me that I never stopped to notice if I actually liked them, she said during one session. And I saw this lightness in her face that hadn't been there before. With Ben, I'm actually paying attention to how I feel, whether I'm enjoying myself, whether I feel safe and respected. And the crazy thing is, I actually really like him. Not because I've built him up in my head or because I'm trying to make it work, but just because of who he is. But then came the test, the moment that revealed just how deep her old patterns ran. About 2 months in, Ben had a stressful week at work, and his texts became less frequent, his responses shorter. And Kate spiraled. She came into my office pale, shaking. He's pulling away. I can feel it. He's losing interest. And I need to do something. I need to plan something special, or have a conversation, or fix this before it falls apart. I asked her what evidence she had that he was pulling away, aside from the frequency of his texts. She paused. I mean, he still texts. He still makes plans. He apologized for being distracted and explained what was going on at work. But it feels different. I asked her what felt different. Really. She sat with that question for a long time. Finally, she said, I feel scared. I feel like if I'm not actively doing something to keep his attention, he'll realize he doesn't actually need me, and he'll leave, just like everyone else. And then, quieter, just like my dad didn't need my mom, even though she did everything for him, just like Ryan didn't need me, even though I gave him everything. I looked at her directly and said something I'd been holding back, waiting for the right moment. Kate, what if the reason those relationships didn't work wasn't because you didn't do enough, but because you were trying to have a relationship with men who weren't capable of showing up the way you needed them to? What if you weren't the problem? What if you were just picking people who confirmed your deepest fear, that you're not worth choosing, and then exhausting yourself trying to prove that fear wrong, instead of walking away from people who couldn't see your value? She started crying again, but this time it was different. Less despair and more recognition. I've been so focused on getting someone to pick me that I never asked if I should pick them. I stayed with Ryan even after he called me too much. I kept going on dates with guys who barely asked me questions. I convinced myself that if I just tried harder, they'd see me. But they didn't want to see me, Dr. Moore, and I stayed anyway, because I thought that's what you do. You fight for love. We talked about the difference between fighting for love and fighting against reality, about the difference between effort that nurtures a relationship and effort that tries to create a relationship out of nothing. And I asked her what she wanted to do about Ben, whether this was a moment where she needed to fight or a moment where she needed to trust. She thought about it, and then she said something that showed me just how far she'd come. I want to trust. I want to believe that if he's the right person, he'll come back when his work stress calms down. And if he doesn't, if this is him pulling away, then I want to have the strength to let him go instead of chasing him. She didn't text him first. She didn't plan anything special. She just waited, sat with her discomfort, worked through it in therapy. And 3 days later, Ben called her, apologized for being distant, explained what had been going on, and asked if she wanted to come over for dinner that weekend. He wanted to cook for her, and Kate said yes. And when she came to our next session, she was glowing. I didn't fix it. I didn't do anything, and it was fine. He came back on his own because he wanted to, not because I convinced him. They've been together for almost a year now. It hasn't been perfect. There have been moments where Kate's old patterns try to resurface, where she feels that familiar urge to overfunction or control or manage. But she catches herself now, talks to me about it, talks to Ben about it, and what she's learned is that real love, sustainable love, doesn't require you to constantly prove your worth or earn someone's presence. Real love is what happens when two people choose each other, consistently, without one person doing all the choosing. The last time we met, she told me something that I think will stay with me for the rest of my career. She said, I spent so many years thinking I needed to be perfect to be loved, that I had to have all the right answers and do all the right things, and never be too much or too needy or too anything. And what I've realized is that the person who's right for me doesn't need me to be perfect. He just needs me to be honest, to show up as I am, and to trust that that's enough. And for the first time in my life, Dr. More, I actually believe it might be. Kate's story isn't just about dating or finding a partner, though that's how it started. It's about the stories we inherit from our families, the beliefs we form from our earliest heartbreaks, and the ways we unconsciously recreate the same patterns over and over until we finally stop and ask ourselves if there might be another way. It's about unlearning the idea that love is something you have to chase or convince or earn, and learning instead that the love worth having is the love that meets you where you are, the love that doesn't require you to be anything other than yourself. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever felt like you're doing all the work in your relationships, if you've ever wondered why trying so hard seems to push people away instead of pulling them closer, take a breath. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not fundamentally unlovable. You might just be caught in a pattern that was never yours to begin with, a pattern you learned because you thought it would keep you safe, but that's actually keeping you stuck. And the beautiful, terrifying truth is that you can choose something different. You can stop chasing, stop managing, stop performing, and see who stays when you're just yourself, nothing more and nothing less. If you want to share, tell me in the comments which part of Kate's story resonated with you most. No need to share details, just what it brought up for you. And if you want to hear more stories from my practice, stories about the messy, complicated, beautiful work of being human, subscribe to the channel. And please remember, if you're going through something similar, these stories can offer comfort and reflection, but they're not a substitute for professional support. If you're struggling, reach out to a licensed therapist in your area. You deserve that care, that space to be heard and to heal.